talked about Josh Fried's column in the Gazette last Saturday. Given everything the Gazette is going through, the job cuts, and now, of course, they set up an advisory council, and hopefully some good will come of that. There's still a lot of people out there, and I know when we talked about it, Natasha, a lot of people still kind of reaching out and saying, you know what, don't really care.
Yeah, it was shocking.
It was.
It really was. I mean, I don't know. You expected people to rally and be like, yes, we need a voice. We need to be represented. And instead what we got is why? What's the point? I get my news online and just really, in my opinion, not getting the point.
So Josh Fried's most recent column in the Gazette last Saturday was, quote, "You need the Montreal Gazette and it needs you," where he basically made the case that the Gazette not only covers news in Montreal, but also helps and supports the community in ways people don't even necessarily notice, which was great. And I thought it was a terrific column.
It was.
And then I started reading the comments, and that's why I wanted to talk to Josh today, who's on the line. Josh, thanks for the time this afternoon.
Yeah. Hi, Aaron. Hi, Natasha.
My first question to you is, do you even read the comments when you write stuff?
I do read them, but you know what? I've always felt that people who respond online are often the people most angry and irritated, maybe for good reasons. I got over 250 emails, personal emails, Aaron. I would say 30 to 40 people pledged to resubscribe to the Gazette in the next week. Another several dozen promised not to quit who are thinking of it. So there's two audiences out there. I was appealing to people who actually care for the Gazette. If you don't care for it, then you shouldn't subscribe to it. If you ever cared for it, and then you better think about it, because if you lose it, you're not going to know what you lost in our community until it happens. So that's why I wrote the column, to tell people what you might think about it. I'm not talking to the negative nabobs. Not everybody the community has to buy this. Enough people have to subscribe to make this paper work and really just represent our community.
But I'm curious if you're surprised. You said you didn't read, or you don't necessarily read all the comments. I read the first, 10 or 15, and I was taken aback by just how much anger there was. How many people were just out there either snubbing their nose at you or snubbing their nose at the paper, saying, it's good for nothing. There's nothing in that paper. I never liked it. I don't like it. Go to hell. I didn't understand it, and I wonder if you thought it was out there, if you knew it was out there.
I of course, look, every week, if I look at my online comments in the Gazette compared to the comments I get on my own site and in my own letters, they're two different worlds, okay? If I paid attention only to the online comments in the Gazette, I wouldn't write. It's that simple, okay?
Yeah.
All right? I'm an optimist, and I look at hundreds of people contacting me to say they love it, or they don't. Not nobody loves it. People who understand something here. Like, that's what I said in the column, Aaron. It's the Anglophone megaphone. If you don't get that, then I can't help you. You live in a province. You don't have one member in Legault's cabinet. You don't have one member in his party. You have zero voice. The largest voice you have on any issue you care about as an Anglophone in this province or an English-speaking person is the Gazette. Like it or not like it, it is the loudest voice you have. But I said I said in the paper, it supports English suburbs, English schools, English hospitals, English patients, English muffins, and English period. Nobody's louder. If you don't get that, don't buy it. But if you want your community to have representation, you better hear me. And hundreds of people have written beautiful letters to me saying, I don't always like the Gazette, but I get it. And that's who I'm talking to.
There's this fundamental misunderstanding, like people just saying, "Well, I get my news online now. What do I need a paper for? I get it on social media." But they're not understanding the sources that the news is coming from, and they're not seeing themselves represented, right?
No, I think first place people think they read it in other media. All media everywhere now scalps newspapers. Like the newspapers have dozens, because that has 40 reporters, 40 staff, 30 reporters. Nobody else has that. In the province, everybody else borrows their news from the Gazette. And when the Gazette isn't there, they won't have that paper to borrow it from. They will have Francophone papers to do it, but they have different agendas, okay? Every morning, Quebec government people get news digests. They get 3 Francophone news digests and 1 English one, the Gazette. A Francophone one is not the concerns we have. If you just read the Journal de Montréal each day, you'd think everyone in Quebec loved Bill 121 and Bill 96. Only the Gazette writes about how it impacts minority groups, how it impacts you. So it's really, it's the only way that politicians and really our fellow Francophones get this. Francophone media editors read the Gazette each day. And when they do, sometimes they actually write about our concerns because they read the Gazette. Without the Gazette, I say us. I'm not a member of the Gazette. I don't work for the Gazette. I just write a column. That's why I was the one to do this. I'm not affected by these cuts so far. But I think if you want your fellow Francophones and your fellow Francophone politicians to understand our issues, you don't have a bigger place than the Gazette. It's just that simple. Everybody borrows from it. That is, again, it is the voice. People don't understand this. They think, oh, geez, every little radio station, every little tiny magazine, no, the Suburban, whoever, they all have the same news. They don't have the reporters.
Yeah.
No.
The Gazette has them. That is our English voice, man. It's a tough one, and it's really, when you understand that, you realize, I don't buy the Gazette for the news. Honestly, I do it because I buy a voice. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm buying. I'm buying my voice, I'm terrified not to have a voice in English Quebec. It would be crazy. I understand why people complain. There's lots to complain about. But we are different than every city in North America. We are the only place where English-speaking people are in a minority. We are the only place where a newspaper with a big voice really matters. It is our opposition party right now. It is the only opposition party that really represents us at the moment. Sorry, Liberals. I'm afraid.
Fair enough.
Here.
Absolutely.
Here. You're bang on, Josh.
It's the loud voice, guys. And, I wish the Gazette could do better. In many ways, that they're trying. What can you do? I mean, we can all think of 100 ways to do it. But I've been encouraging people to subscribe because it's kind of, it's not a newspaper you're supporting. It's not only a newspaper. It's your village voice.
Couldn't have said it any better. Josh, I'm heartened by the fact that at least, you talk about the letters you did receive from people pledging that they would continue to support it and understood what you wrote. So at least that's some good news because it was pretty grim when I read the first couple of comments.
Yeah. Look, for sure. There's two groups out there, but there's a million English supporters. They don't all have to buy, a million English-speaking people. They don't all have to buy the Gazette. About 150,000 do. So that's 15 out of every 100 have to be positive, right? Let's think positive.
That's all we need to do. Josh, thanks so much. Keep up the great work. Josh Freed, columnist at the Montreal Gazette.